plenty of them, like in Great Northern and on 31 and 57. Now, there's a store there.
And this tape is continuing from tape 2, and this is tape 3 on the annexation of the city, town of Valony of the Kmart Plaza.
Prices are higher in some respects because, in the first place, they have an excellent fruit and vegetable department. They have very good stuff. They have an excellent bakery. They have an excellent fish, and so on.
I don't argue with any of that.
And they have wide aisles, and it's easy to shop there, and they are very courteous, and you feel good when you go there.
Yes.
That's why I go to Tops. And that's... meat is terrific. That's all I can say.
Let's get it all in.
Let's get it all in. Anybody here that sells beverages. And that's what I'm talking about. They merchandise.
Up until up the road, they triple coupon, and then a lot of people I know that normally shop Tops run up the road to triple coupon.
I mean,
that's a fact of life. People are trying to stretch their dollars.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because those people are not going to Tops anyway. They're going to Price Chopper, they're going to Great Northern or the store at 31 and 57. That's where those people are going.
Well, okay, I'm not going to argue the point. I know enough coupon people, and they go here, and they do shop Tops. But if a better deal comes along, they run to the better deal, and there is no tie to that merchant that they've had good business relationships with. They don't think in those terms right now. A lot of people can't afford to. A lot of people equate that $1.50 to a couple of loaves of bread.
Right, but by the same token, can you build a wall around the city of Fulton and tell people you have to stay here?
No.
I think what we were looking at was stimulating growth on the outside so the inside would grow. We weren't trying to take business away. And it will happen. If you look at any small communities that had dying downtowns like we had, they built around the town and then the inside grew with the outskirts. If you have people going to Kmart, they're going to come into the city. The more activity you can bring to an area, the better it's going to be. Look up at Great Northern. Well, you go across the street to the mall there. Then when you're there, you go over to Seneca Mall, and people just travel around. That's what we're hoping is going to happen here.
And I understand
as far as downtown merchants, I've been in the stores. I went with a petition last year to get people to sign it for parking and for other issues. You know, I had store owners tell me they didn't want their name on the paper because they didn't want to be recognized. So things have been tried to be done, but we get closed out.
Okay.
I went to the store and I said, no, I don't want my name on there.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, it's just...
You can't wait.
You don't hear that.
And we are working. We're in meetings all the time trying to stimulate downtown. But the merchants also have to stimulate their own businesses. It has to be a partnership type thing. One of the things that we've talked about is the downtown area. One of the things that Fulton lacks is an access to the stores. You have the one large parking lot, and the stores that are stuck in the middle have no access. And we've been talking about possibly opening up some of those one-way areas to allow more of an access. Right now, if you turn onto Oneida Street and you want to go back to one of the other stores to the mall, you can't get there unless you go all the way around the city, around the bridge. So people aren't going to do that. What they're doing is just going somewhere else. So I think part of it has to be part of the city, but part of it has to be part of the owner of the businesses. Well, they have to do things that are exciting to stimulate business, to get people there, and we need to get businesses there that are exciting.
But we need some leadership to help them formulate direction. And I'm telling you that when I go and travel, and I'm not talking locally, I go and travel, if I see a nicely aesthetic area, flowers, awnings, whatever, nice window displays, I'm parking, and I'm going in and I'm looking, and I'm paying the money to spend there.
We tried to redo the downtown, to put new facades on, and not enough people wanted to participate to improve their stores, so we could not get the grant. So you have to look at the whole picture. We've tried things. We had a meeting last week. We had a meeting a month ago. We have another meeting coming up. The issue isn't dead. It's ongoing. We're also concerned.
I've been trying, since I became mayor, to open up First Street. I haven't had a single word of support from anybody in the business section downtown. I haven't had a letter from anybody. I haven't anybody appear here at a meeting for any support. Not a bit. They're all in favor of it, but nobody wants to do a thing about it. And you can't wait, except Al, and you can't wait until downtown is totally dead until you do something.
Then I would only ask that we
And
find
it's
out
well
what's
on
wrong
its
with the
way.
communications. If there's a communication problem, then maybe we need to devote some time to figure out what
and
that
another
is.
point, just to tell you about business. I work in a business in Hannibal. We started out with 2 people. There was no business like ours there. It wasn't offered. But everybody in that area was going somewhere. We've been there 6 months, and we've had to hire an additional person. We have 3 people now. But we're giving service. We're showing that we care, and we're taking people from other areas. The downtown area could do the same thing. Like the mayor said, it's got to be service and something that people want that's better than what someone else is offering them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, my name's Don Bullard, members of the council. I'm a little bit surprised at the change or somewhat seeming change in the attitude of this council over this issue that we're discussing. The issue is helping someone build and compete against our existing merchants on the edge of town, because that seems in conflict to what went on in this council this spring with regard to hot dog vendors at Bullhead Point. It seems that everyone was afraid that hot dog vendors at Bullhead Point would ruin the food business in this city, so this council passed a license fee of $750 because the hot dog vendor didn't pay taxes in the city. Now we're providing, at a 25% markup, water and sewer to a non-real property taxpayer and a non-sales taxpayer on the edge of the city. And it doesn't seem to make sense, and it seems to be in conflict with past history on this council. The reason I have concerns is because suddenly the retail business is not at a level playing field, and the city of Fulton, because of mutual aid agreements for one, will be required to provide fire protection for that development. Because
That isn't true. Wait a minute.
the
Don.
mutual aid agreement, Mayor, will require that Fulton, and we have a fireman present who can talk about that, the chief.
Oh, on your county mutual aid program, yes.
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 So, in effect, we're providing fire protection. The people that shop in that development, unless they're coming from the south, will have to use city roads, which presents a problem for our traffic department and the Fulton Police Department. Again, we're indirectly providing services to these folks with nothing but a prospective gain that we might help the downtown. We were concerned about hot dog vendors, and we charged a license fee. We're giving water and sewer to Kmart, the development out there, and not charging anything but the normal cost for water and sewer to anyone outside the city, and I have a problem. I heard the word lawsuit mentioned 2 or 3 times, and I don't think that this council needs a lawsuit over this matter. And I would ask that this council have a full and open discussion and repass the resolution to avoid any litigation from citizens or to avoid any litigation from the developer. Plain and simple. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Don. First of all, we can't rescind the resolution now because there's a contract in place. I might also suggest to the merchants who might be thinking of an injunction that if you get an injunction and you stop their construction and you stop that project and then you lose, which you're going to, then you're going to be liable for all the profits that they lose. You're going to be liable for all the expenses that they've incurred to the present, which is well over $100,000, and all the profits they may make in the future. And that could be millions of dollars.
Do you accept the liability for the loss of $500,000 in sales tax?
Are you gonna sue me for that, Percy? You go ahead and sue me, baby, and I'll own all of your property.
Accept it?
Yeah,
1
Phil.
year from now, I'm gonna come back here.
You go
1 year
ahead.
from now.
You go ahead and bring your lawsuit. I hope you do.
Mayor's Council,
You wouldn't even be able to buy a set of golf clubs.
citizens.
Yeah, Phil.
You know, this thing hasn't just come about, okay? Mrs. Allerton was the mayor of the city of Fulton when they originally sold the 4,000 gallons of water to Whitewater Development, which was Mr. Raleigh and Mr. Clark. And I stood up here at that time and I said, we're making a mistake. Now, this is 5 years ago. And the council that was up here told me to sit down and shut up. We're not making a mistake now. All of a sudden, there's a political brawl now. We made a mistake. We gave you 4,000 gallons of water. We had 2 anchor stores at the time, Kmart and the Fashion Bug, and a few smaller stores. Why do we need the additional 7,000 gallons? We putting in a grocery store now? I'm led to believe there's a grocery store going on.
Grocery store and fast foods.
Now we got a grocery store. More competition for the city of Fulton, okay? Why do we constantly sell off the water and sewage, our only saleable asset in this city, and we shoot ourselves in the foot every time we do it? To trade off $5 on sewage for $500 a day in sales tax is ludicrous. And you gentlemen know I've been up here complaining and bitching about this every time it's been brought up. And still you go in the back room, you discuss it, and you pass it. That is not right. And I think you should resend it. If the merchants have to put a stop on that project out there, I think they should do it.
Yeah, well, let them go ahead and try. As I say,
Because what you did was illegal, gentlemen. You did it. It was illegal.
no, it wasn't.
It certainly was.
It wasn't.
We'll find out.
Okay.
No, Phil, one thing that I've heard people say is competition. Why is everybody afraid of competition? I've been competing for 26 years and made a living. Why can't anybody else? And I compete against probably 500 salons in Oswego County. I make a living.
Russ,
It's a service. When someone comes in to buy something, if they're buying anything out of a store, you're giving a service. You're selling yourself, along with that article for them to come back.
Russ, that mall is going to be up before Christmas.
No, it won't.
No, that mall will not open till next year, sometime probably in August.
When they plan on starting construction?
This fall.
This fall. Well, usually as a rule, they put them up in about 3 months is correct. I heard somebody say that. You take Walmart out in Oswego. If they want to be in this area by Christmas, you can bet your booties they'll be in there by Christmas. And they'll kill this city.
Want to make a bet?
How much sales revenue do you think we lose down 481 to Onondaga County every year?
Probably a lot, but we don't bring the guy in and park him right next door to us. We don't say, here, use our streets to get to your parking lot so that you can take our sales money.
But they're going through them anyways to go to Onondaga County and shop. Aren't they?
People aren't going to drive down the city of Syracuse for a pair of dungarees or a shirt or a pair of socks. Or
Then why is Jamesway in bankruptcy?
Because people are going to Onondaga County because they're...
Jamesway, if Jamesway's smart in the city of Fulton, they would go bankrupt, believe me.
They are in bankruptcy. What do you mean, go bankrupt? Why are the stores moved out of downtown Fulton?
Because the mall area down there is such a bad place to shop. Whoever tore down the city, the busy block down there ought to have his head examined, because that area down there is just blah. There's nothing there.
You got that right, pal.
And how much sales revenue have we lost because that block still isn't down there?
Hey,
Tell you what,
First Street should have been open years ago.
yeah, but nobody will support me on it. and you want to keep driving people out of town?
Allerton told me they couldn't open First Street, there's too many bodies buried under there.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Yeah,
Okay, you can see it's election year because I'm the third of the three. But I want to change the subject because I'm sure you're getting beat up enough on this other situation here. I want to go back to item number 6 on your agenda, the BAN for the purchase of the building and parking lot. There's no secret that I didn't think that this was a very good deal, and I've spoken about that publicly and privately. Is there a lease agreement with community development at this time to lease that building?
no, but Vern, I think you're forgetting that this board is the one that runs CDA.
I understand.
Not the director, and this board has decided that CDA will lease that building.
That's fine, but at this
And we
point-
will also set the rent.
Okay. I don't disagree with that, but
All right.
at this point, there is no lease with them.
No, we just signed the purchase offer about a week ago.
My other thing on the same issue is that, and I ran into severe opposition when I was in office in the 1980s with the parking lot situation about the maintenance. Is there something being done on that at this point?
No, nothing at the present time.
Is there going to be?
I imagine, sure.
I think
We're
it's...
going to have the merchants contribute to the upkeep and maintenance of the parking lot.
Okay. I think that's critical because, as you know, we have a lot of downtown merchants here,
I agree.
including myself, that are paying an assessment to do downtown, and we don't complain about that.
No, I
But
agree.
you know, and everybody's talking about level playing fields, and obviously
Right.
that has to be a level playing field, and hopefully that will be worked out before the end of the year. And then I would like to go to discussion item number 6, which is city administrator.
Right.
As you well know, and Mayor Patrick is here, and other former mayors met with the Common Council Committee, which consisted of Ross, Dave, and who else? John Crook. And we sort of hammered out a lot of pros and cons. Is this the same thing that's being brought forth, or is there revisions? I don't know.
Very, very few changes, and when we have the copies made, why you'll be furnished with a copy.
Okay, but it's basically what we
Yeah.
had hammered out with the council.
That's right.
Is a public hearing necessary on this? Or?
Yes, because you make any changes, you've got to do it over again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. David, you said you wanted to make
Yes,
a comment?
I only have a couple of comments.
Yeah, just a minute, Les.
About what went on with the water and sewer. I'd like to take the text of city versus proprietors out of the conversation entirely. We don't have to be Einsteins to see what's going on all over the country. The first thing that's needed any place to bring anything back is jobs. Our city has an extremely high rate of people on assistance program that need jobs. If they have jobs, they have money. Look at the number of houses that are for sale in this city. On every block, there's at least 2. Does that tell you that there's something going on? And not just the downtown is eroding, the entire city is eroding. Property values have fallen at least 30% in the last 3 years in this city. If your house is worth $100,000, you're not going to get 70 for it. Try it.
Ron, do you mind if he finishes? You want to rebut, you'll have the chance.
Okay, try it, Ronnie. If it's not a new one.
Wait a minute. No, let's not do this.
Now, jobs create money. People with money can take care of properties, Ron. Okay? New, used, whatever they are. And what that does is increases everybody's property values. Now I ask you, any of you out there that have been on vacation any place in this country, when you drive into a town, a city, a village, any place, and I would like to use a place in Canada, because if any of you have ever been there, and when you drive into the city of Ottawa, the first impression you get that this place is so immaculate, how did they do this? It's gorgeous. Wouldn't it be great to live here? The first impressions of when you come into this city are everlasting for people that haven't seen it, trust me. You drive into the city of Fulton from outside if you don't live here, and that certainly is not the impression that's relayed to anybody that passes through here. Why would they want to locate business here? Why would they want to live here? Why would they want to work here? That's a good question. You know, the generation doesn't start with having views of what's going on. You have to go, and you're going to have to back up and look at what caused the problem. How we deal with it has to be changed daily. And anybody that can't change daily is going to be lost, because the world is changing so fast. If you don't change with it, you're going to lose. So it's not a case of who versus who and what's better and what's worse. We've tried closing downtown up. We tried making a mall. We've tried everything. This will at least create jobs. It has already guaranteed us another business coming into town, which will create more jobs. It will also create a higher tax base for where it's at. It'll generate bed tax, which will help help our chamber generate more tourism here, which we're after. It's time to look at the overall scope of things and not the narrow-minded vision that's been going on in this town for 20, 30 years. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we are attempting something different.
If you believe that to be true, then why is Super Duper sitting the eyesore that it is? I'm sorry, I have to answer that.
Wait a minute. If you want to speak, you're going to have to come up in front. Don, he may not be finished.
I think he is. I'd like to just...
All right, well, I think Les got up. He wanted to speak.
I'm sorry, Les.
If you don't mind, please.
Gentlemen, I won't take up too much of your time. I'm not going to argue about the benefits of the advantages and disadvantages of a Kmart coming in. It could help. It could help bring jobs in. It could help my business, too, in some ways. But, and I know that from the standpoint of comparing it with Walmart, our Oswego store is doing better than it ever has, and since Walmart has come in. But, on the other hand, if you look at the downtown area in Oswego, that is deteriorating also. There are a lot of vacant stores, and there are a few stores that are up for sale, buildings that are up for sale. So, but again, I don't want to belabor the point. It is the difference in the sales tax. If I sell a refrigerator for $600 or $700, and they can save 3% on that, it's substantial, and people probably would go elsewhere to do it if they could save the 3%. On another subject, the mayor spoke about nobody saying anything about opening up downtown. If you remember, George, when you first took office, or maybe just before, we had a meeting of the Fulton Area Partnership, and we talked about opening up downtown, and you said, gee, I don't think it'll cost $1 million. I think we can borrow the equipment from the county, and we can open up that street. We're going to look into it further. And I know that you must have gotten plenty of correspondence from Steve Ander, who has Bruce Jewelers. They've been wanting to open that store, that street for years. And I'm sure that there have been other people who have said things to you about it. And so all these things do have a bearing on what we're talking about now. And now you're talking about, someone mentioned, I think Ross, that the city, inside of the city could be benefited by construction on the outside. Well, some ways perhaps if it's an industry, a factory, or something like that. But you'll notice that all these stores that are being built around the outskirts of Syracuse have only deteriorated the downtown in Syracuse. In fact, we just closed our store downtown in Syracuse, and that's been going downhill for a long time. It would have been closed before this, except that we owned the building. And it's happening, as I said, in Oswego too. But so all these things should be taken into consideration, and especially the difference in the sales tax. That is where I think most of us have complained about, and if we could only do something about that, that would certainly help our whole situation.
Thanks, Les. I get on, excuse me a minute, Don.
I will.
I get on Swiggle quite a bit, and boy, I don't see a lot of vacant stores down there. I'll count them next time. As for Syracuse, that's been deteriorating for so many years, long before the malls on the outskirts were starting, for a very simple reason, and that is that your life's in peril if you are foolish enough to go downtown. But as far as, look, honey, if you want to speak, just come up front and take your turn, will you please? Instead of cat calls, do you mind? You know, it's very easy to sit back there and cat call, but it takes a little different to come up front and speak what you have to say. Okay. And as for First Street, yes, Stephen Ender has consistently and persistently advocated opening up, and he's the only one. I haven't had any calls from anybody else, Les. I'm sorry. Not a single person downtown, much less the president of your association, has ever approached me and given any support to opening up First Street. And unless you do, unless the council knows that there is support for it, it ain't going to happen. That's pretty obvious. Don?
Mayor, just a quick point in response to Mr. Halstead's comment. Residential real estate values have in fact increased somewhat over the past 3 years in the city of Fulton. And if you'd like the statistics, I'll be glad to furnish them to you.
Certainly would.
Incidentally,
Call me.
Incidentally, too, you might be interested to know that the cost of welfare since 1990 has increased by 30% in the county of Oswego. Dick?
Mayor, gentlemen, interesting point about Ottawa. It's a beautiful city. Now, did you go next door and visit Hull?
That's why they put the bridge in there, Dick.
It's another province, and the financial backing for Hull is so different than Ottawa that fantastic. Now, a point that bothers me a lot is the tax situation that Fulton's in. We've been in trouble with taxes for a long time, and we're in worse trouble. A lot of things need to be done in Fulton. We don't have the money to do it. However hard you fellows work to discipline the dollars that we have, there aren't enough dollars to go around. And the industries are petitioning for reduction of tax. I fully understand that. They've got to stay competitive. We just heard tonight a plea for reduction of forgiveness of some tax. And so here we're in a situation, we're going to give away our playing card, our real asset, without a return, we don't get any general tax from this proposed mall. We don't get any sales tax from this proposed mall. It's going to attack the businesses that are in the sales production businesses that exist in Fulton now. Let me give you a thought on this. Given a retail business, hypothetically, let us say, my business does $10 a year. So there's a sales tax and the $10 a year. Say that my business has a break-even point of $9 a year. Say I lose $1.50 because the competition from outside the city comes in and sucks out that much. You say, well, that's $1.50 a year. Puts me below a break-even. So it forces me out. So it takes not only the $1.50 worth of sales tax, it takes the whole 10. There's a little loss against a retail business can wipe out the whole business. Now, a well-run retail business, if they can deliver 5% profit on gross, they are an excellent business. Kmart doesn't deliver that. They're a good business still, but they don't deliver that much. Sears and Roebuck doesn't deliver that much. I mean, it's a tight wire. So you take a little away, we'll go the whole thing. So what we're doing, we're taking away, we're losing the industrial property tax we have. We're giving up the general tax by supporting something outside of our city. We're placing the city and the sales-producing businesses in jeopardy when we won't be able to produce the sales tax to help the city, to run the city. Where are we going to get it? We're going to go to the property owners. We're going to all the guys who live here and all the gals who live here and say, hey, I'm sorry, but you've got to come up with more money to pay for these things to make us Ottawa and not Hull. I truly hope that you gentlemen think about this. And you're saying this cannot be changed. Well, somewhere along the line, somebody told me that the 4,000-gallon thing was rescinded, and the other agreements with these people were rescinded.
Dick, let me ask you this. You've been here all during the meeting, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard me say there's a signed contract?
I've heard that, but was there not a signed contract when the 4,000 gallons happened?
No, there
It
wasn't.
was just in a resolution.
It wasn't. No, as a matter of fact, the fact that there had been any action taken in their construction made it impossible to rescind that anyway without being liable for a lot of damages.
They've taken, since Tuesday, they've taken action in their construction?
No, but there's a signed contract. And you can't violate the contract. Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Have you been able to compete successfully with stores in Oswego, the malls in Oswego, Great Northern, and Syracuse?
Easily?
No, I say, have you been able to?
Well, we compete.
Yeah. Why do you think it's going to be any different with Kmart? You don't have the same kind of goods that they sell.
George, it just, you know, you spoke about the erosion.
No,
let me answer your question.
Yeah.
You spoke about the erosion of business southward to the malls in Syracuse. Now, you're going, there's a...
No, that isn't my question, Dick.
Right,
my question is, if you can compete with the malls in Oswego and Syracuse and Great Northern, why can't you compete with Kmart? They don't carry the same stock of merchandise you do.
It just adds to the load of drawing people out of our
I'm talking about your business now.
I'm talking about my business. If you draw people away from my business, it makes it harder for me to compete.
Why, when you don't carry the same merchandise that they carry? How can they compete with you?
George, a pair of socks sold is a pair of socks sold.
Oh, that's not true.
Yes, it's true.
I've been in Kmart,
Sure,
I've been in your store, and it isn't the same thing.
It is, I didn't say it's the same
That's why I
thing.
don't go to Kmart.
If you draw people out of an area, then now, well, let me put it this way. Why do the big malls need anchors? To draw people in. If you take the anchors away, the malls die.
I don't follow you, but...
Oh, well, believe me, it's a true...
Yeah, but what's that got to do with this question?
All the guy do is look at the Penn Mall situation, you know, he's right on.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree
the
with you.
anchors left Penn Mall
Yeah, but
is gone.
what's that got to do with this situation?
It's the drawing of customers away from a given area. We all depend on traffic. There's impulse buying in the retail
You don't
business.
have any traffic down there. How can you
I'll have less if you do what you're going to do.
How can you have traffic when you're on that mall downtown?
I'm going to have less, George, if you do what you do.
You're going to have less than nothing. That's still nothing. Because you don't have any traffic.
I never thought of the city of Fulton as nothing. I think it's a very important area.
I'm talking about... Shut up, Ross. You want to speak, you make you wait your turn, and you can come up and speak.
What I'd like to see you gentlemen do is hold this off for 30 or 60 days and give the public a chance to understand what's going on here.
There isn't anything we can do.
Well, I find that hard to believe.
Well, talk to your lawyer. Ask him what a contract means, will you? I'm sure you know. You must have signed lots of them.
I know what a contract is.
Well, all right. Well, there is a written
and I know what
contract.
agreements are, too, and they can be
An
changed.
agreement. You can't be naive enough to think that a signed contract can be changed unless both parties agree to it. You've been in business how many years?
George, I'd like to read the contract. I don't know how...
I'll be glad to give you a copy of it.
Fine, I'd like to read it.
Sure. Be glad to.
No.
Okay?
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you.
Bergen.
Bill Waiton, is there anybody who hasn't spoken yet that wants to speak?
My name is Joe Farrell, and I'm also a business owner. I own several businesses in the city of Fulton, and I'm also a property owner in the city of Fulton. And I have some real grave concerns about this decision that was made here. One thing that I would like to say is that the commercial property where we have businesses in Fulton is not exclusive to the downtown area. There are other areas in the city of Fulton that do have businesses and bring in substantial sales tax and property tax revenues. A major concern that was brought up by some other individuals I would like to reiterate, and that is the concern of the level playing field, the 4% versus the 7%. And I want to say that I don't think that most of the merchants who have been in business here for several years are concerned about competition. I think that we probably have all stood to competition, but you cannot compete with stores that are selling their merchandise at 4% when you're selling your merchandise at 7%. And certainly the point that Dick Bergen makes about people going to Kmart, people are sometimes not that discriminating in what they're buying as far as whether or not the clothing is exactly identical in one store or another. If they are in Walmart and they buy some shorts or whatever, then they're not going to go to Bergen's and they're not going to buy those shorts or that skirt, and he is going to lose that business. That's just a fact of life. That's the way people shop, and that's, you know, the reality of the situation. One thing that I would like to mention is something that Mayor Villette mentioned about speaking with the expert that came. I was also in the audience that night, and I believe that the gentleman was a professor from Iowa. And the gentleman did say after the meeting, when I went up and questioned him about my concerns as a business owner in Fulton, he said, well, I want to tell you this, that you can't compete. If you're a direct competitor and you're selling the same goods in your store, you cannot compete with a Walmart or a Kmart. He'd been doing the studies for several years. He said it's no competition. You will go out of business. It's a fact. And also, some of the smaller stores that sell similar goods, they will go out of business. Some stores, you're right, will benefit. Some of the food stores will benefit from having, you know, more traffic in the area. But very definitely, he made that point very clear to me, that some of the towns that he studied, very definitely stores that had been long-time businesses in those areas folded. And that is certainly a major concern of mine because, as others have alluded to, we have the few paying for the many right now in the city of Fulton. And we can look toward a level playing field with the county tax becoming, 7%. But the reality of the situation is I don't see that coming in the very near future, and I don't see it coming in time to save the businesses in the city. And right now, we cannot be burdened. The businesses and the taxpayers cannot pick up more of the burden than we have right now because the few are paying for the many. And it's just too much. It's like this is the straw that broke the camel's back. In closing, and in all due respect, I would like to say that I really take exception to people of the female gender being referred to as honey in a public forum.
Some of them take it as a compliment. One thing you forgot to say about the professor who was the expert about the places they closed, and he did mention that in the open session. It wasn't only to you that he mentioned it, that it was the stores who tried to compete with Kmart and Walmart on prices. That's the ones that lost, because you can't, and I agree with that. You have to compete on a different level, in what he calls their voids, or by offering service that they can't offer. Yes, you try to compete with them on price alone, and you won't make it.
George, Mayor, Mrs. Sparrow, you're right about that you can't compete. And we went to a conference and they said, no, you will close. But some of the things that merchants need to do in a small community, a downtown, is do more creative advertising, offer better service than what the mall is offering, different merchandise and more diverse, and the big thing was better hours, longer hours. And in a lot of small towns, the stores close up at 5 o'clock, 5:30. That doesn't give people time enough to get home, change, have supper, and then go out and shop. And they said stores that open up longer make a big, big difference. And again, I can only speak from experience. 2 weeks ago, we extended our hours in the business to 7 o'clock from 5 o'clock, and we increased our business by 30% by doing that. So try some of these things and just become a little more creative and more flexible in how you're running your businesses now, to see if maybe if the merchants could get together and say 3 nights a week, you're all going to stay open till 7 and see what happens. But you can't do it for just 2 weeks and say nobody showed up, so we're closing up. You have to get people trained to the idea that this is something new, and you're there to accommodate them. It's an idea.
I thank you and I respect your suggestions, but I will say this. I want to reiterate that all of the businesses do not operate with the hours that you're speaking of, and I personally am not part of the businesses that close at 5:30.
But a lot of reasons why the people go to the malls because they are open till 9 o'clock.
And
I am Mirabita Snyder from the Chamber of Commerce. You know, the Chamber represents both the merchants in town, and we also represent the industries that are here. I think that there have been some really eloquent arguments that have been made tonight, and I don't want to restate those. I think that we've had some really wonderfully articulate people. Joe Farrell has been very articulate, Les Goldberg, Dick Bergen. A lot of the merchants who have spoken have really spoken from their heart and have been very candid about what they're concerned about with this proposal. The Chamber's position on this Kmart issue has been the same since the start, which is that the Chamber thinks that growth and progress is terrific, but that it can't come at the expense of property tax holders in the city. And because of the sales tax disparity, you know, the city's likely to get hurt to the tune of maybe $500,000 a year, and that's something we really can't afford. The one message that I'd like to leave you with is that I think that next year, as you're putting your budget together, you should probably plan on some hit in sales tax, and don't plan to go back to the industries, and don't plan to go back to look at the businesses to try to get that sales tax money back, because they're not in a position to do it. Thank you.
thank you. Al?
I feel like a leper. We've been put in a leper's colony, and the colony is Canal View Mall. Before my nose falls off, I want to make a few points. Even though I'm supposed to be dying, I don't think Canal View Mall should be treated as a dying area. I think it should be encouraged, not written off. And the reason I say written off is because one gentleman told me we need a bypass to go around downtown. Take 481 traffic away from downtown. That was the first stupid thing I ever heard. The second thing was an overpass. Take the traffic away from downtown by an overpass. 2 weeks ago, a gentleman stood here and said, forget downtown. Don't open the street. Move downtown somewhere else and turn those houses into middle-income housing projects. I mean, is there a conspiracy going on here that I don't know about? It's not my place to tell you what my family has invested in pop-ups. I can tell you it's in excess of $40,000. That was an empty store for 2 years. We're bringing in sales tax. Now, Mr. Belfiore made some points. We should stay open late. My daughter went around with him with this. Malls are open till 9 o'clock. They have security. We don't have security downtown. If we had a foot cop or two walking downtown, we would stay open. But we're surrounded by beer joints. We have drunks throwing up and urinating near our windows. I don't want my daughters downtown under those conditions. It just cannot be open that late. And I'm going to take a back seat to Mr. Bergen and Mr. Goldberg. They know more about retail in this room than any of us. But we have been working at it. Mr. Belfiore said we should make an effort.
We have special occasions for everything: Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter. We go around all the schools and pass out letters for the children to get into essay contests. And most of the merchants here will admit that we are bringing some traffic downtown to pop-ups. We're working at it. And we resent the fact that we're told downtown is deteriorating and it's gone, and write it off. We know we can't compete with malls. That's what's killing all the downtowns around this country. But we can't specialize. We can't have outlet stores, specialized outlet stores, selling particular items, that they have to come just for that item and nothing else. And we give 13 bagels with every dozen. We give an extra piece of candy with every dozen. We give something extra because it's personal. We make deliveries, personal deliveries. So we're working at it. We're trying to get the people in. As far as First Street, it isn't only to bring traffic downtown. Ross said traffic brings business. Well, they have to be able to get down to our stores. They can't see us. So one thing would be to get business downtown, is to get the traffic in. But it's more than that. It's congestion. People getting out of Marine Midland, Columbia Bank, Rock Restaurant, or coming down the Lower Bridge, get caught at Oneida Street. You have to make a right to get out. If you were open First Street south, all that traffic would be heading downtown with diagonal parking. I've said this before, with 25-cent meters. Now you're talking about opening Cayuga Street. First, I couldn't get you to open anything. Now you want to take out the mall altogether. I think Cayuga Street is good looking. Maybe it should stay the way it is. But at least one-way traffic on First Street. Bring in some merchant traffic, relieve the congestion, or relieve that traffic on the corner that is causing accidents. As far as bringing in businesses that will employ people, my wife has been with Price Chopper for 14 years. When they bring in a new store, they post notices and they hire from within and transfer those people that want to transfer. Jamesway does it, Tops does it, Price Chopper does it, and so does P&C. And I was in management with Chase Pitkin. They do the same thing. So they hire from within. So they're not necessarily going to hire us in the city of Fulton. The fact of morals beating us up, right? We're helping them do so by putting another mall in. Now I have 2 points to make, and I'll close. Mr. James Morabito said if he had more parking spaces, he would get more customers. So we're buying an empty lot to give them parking spaces for more customers. And now we're opening another parking lot for a P&C in Volney. So there goes Mr. Morabito's business to Volney. Second point, we said that we wanted to protect our own by helping them build themselves up. But we're getting the blocks knocked out from under us with that 4% tax. We can't compete. My wife, going to kill me for this, she spent 50 cents for gas to go across the river to save a 10-cent coupon. So they will go out of their way to save $1.50. And she works for Price Chopper. And she'll go to Tots with the coupon. Scratch that, Terry. So my nose hasn't fallen off yet. And that business with the contract is what makes me feel like I'm a leper. And the business of telling me that downtown is deteriorated, let's forget it and start somewhere else, I think is really nuts. And I would like to know who voted yes and no and why. That might be nice. Because I sat here last Tuesday in an empty room. This young lady was here. And I left finally. But I didn't know what was going on. So if you would have told us, this is the reason we did it, this is how I feel about it, maybe we won't be so angry if we get some inside information on what went on in that think tank. Apparently you've discussed it intelligently, you've got all the facts and the figures, and you came to us with an educated response and a vote. So it would have been unanimous. But it wasn't unanimous. That means half of you were intelligent, the other half weren't intelligent. How do I figure that?
What has been said here tonight by me and the others is pretty much what it was all about. Yeah.
And the vote was 3-3?
3-3, and I broke the tie. And that's...
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd just like
Yes,
to
Jim.
say one thing regarding the hotel complex that we'll be building here soon. I received a letter from the attorney that represents them, and I'd like to pass it to Joe and have Joe read it and enter it into the minutes of the meeting for tonight. It's a very short letter, but it kind of spells out the hotel plan and what Wide Waters and they'll have to do together to go ahead and start their complex. Very short. Right.
Okay.
What's the letter I received today?
This Greece City of Fulton Development Plans, dear Mr. Lincoln. I represent Carmen Emmy and Salvatore Mangano, owners of property nearby the proposed River Glen Mall. It is my understanding that there has been some concern as to the effect of the development of the River Glen Square Strip Mall on the proposed hotel that we would like to build on this property. As you know, we have been aware of the development for quite some time and have worked with the Wide Waters Group with regard to traffic improvements that they are constructing in front of our site in conjunction with the development of the mall. It is most definitely in our best interest, and in my opinion, in the best interest of the City of Fulton, that the project go forward to encourage investment in the city by businesses. As to the concern that the development of the mall and hotel are unrelated, that is not entirely true. Although we have planned for quite some time to build a hotel in Fulton, we are encouraged by the actions of the Common Council in support of the River Glen Square Mall. We now have accelerated our plans and will begin our development sooner than anticipated, largely as a result of the development in the area supported by the Common Council. Very truly yours, Mangano, Cheese, and Collins. Signed, Rocco Mangano.
This hotel, incidentally, is going to be built next to the Quality Inn. It will wipe out two of the most dilapidated houses in the city of Fulton and the vacant building that used to be, what was it called?
It was J.C. Pierce. It was a Wayside Inn, Major's Place.
Oh, yeah, it's four altogether. That's right. The J.C. Pierce building, which is empty, and the other building that's immediately north of it that used to be some bodybuilding place. So there are two empty stores and two derelicts that are going to be taken out and replaced by a new hotel. And that is, believe me, directly due to Kmart Plaza, if you want to call it that. I might also add, I realize that here there's a lot of people opposed to it, but most of the people here have some either personal or political motive for their stand on it. About 90% of the people that I've talked to since this happened are in favor of it. Percy?
Yeah. Great. It's going to be in competition with the Quality Inn that pays no taxes, but pays a payment in lieu of taxes at the present time. And I would imagine if this hotel was constructed, they'll also pay no taxes. We'll be paying in lieu of taxes.
Not that I know of.
The Sawyer County Agency.
Not that I'm aware of.
Check your tax records downstairs at the city chamber, and you'll find out that the Quality Inn especially is not paying only a lieu of tax payment right now, and they've got that for 15 years. And I think this hotel will do the same thing.
Well,
Just tell me when the contract was signed with Whitewater.
I think it was signed, what's it, Tuesday? Last Thursday or Friday.
Can we get a copy of that? Or?
Sure. Yeah. We provide copies of what it All right. I'll see that the city clerk has a copy, and then you can get a copy from him. Anybody from the council?
I got one comment and a question. You talked about when a countywide sales tax goes in, it won't really matter where the Kmart Plaza is located. When the county approached the council with their proposal for a countywide sales tax, they had a figure of something like $3.5 million that they would guarantee the city. That was based on our budgeted amount of sales tax for the city. We dickered with them a little bit, got up to 3.54, something like that. I'm afraid that if this continues to go on and the Kmart Plaza draws sales tax money away from the city to the tune of, say, $500,000, now our budget's going to be $3 million a year, and if the county comes back with a new proposal, then they're going to say, well, we'll guarantee the city of Fulton $3 million because that's what you're getting now. And we're going to lose that guarantee.
But you have to remember this, the county does not have to guarantee anything on a countywide sales tax.
They come back with nothing.
They may come back with absolutely zip to the city.
Well, that makes us feel good,
okay,
too.
then. I think that...
I'm just saying that this is what we could be up against when it comes to renegotiating this whole countywide sales tax issue. I also like to ask the city clerk if the minutes have been drawn up of that meeting, typed up. Have the minutes of last Tuesday's meeting been typed up? No. If they haven't been typed up, and obviously they haven't been signed, according to our charter, no resolution is in effect until it is signed by the mayor or no action taken for 10 days, I believe it is. So we still would have a chance to redo or rescind that resolution. If we said it and to put it before this body, I'd make a motion to rescind that resolution and see where it goes.
I'll second the motion.
There's also some information that I have found out that isn't the same as what we were told last week, whether it's part of Wide Waters or part of the information about stores in the city of Fulton, and I'd like to find out firsthand about the facts that were given to us last week, and if they're not true, then we should stay with our position, and if it is true, maybe what we did last week was the right thing, but until we find out for sure.
All right, there's a motion. Let's have a roll call vote.
This is to rescind it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim, what facts were you referring to about information we were getting?
The stores that were going out of business in the city, and some other information. I'm trying to answer his question. And some other information concerning the whole Wide Waters area and what's happening with that.
I know that.
Would you want to verify that information before you move a motion to rescind the one we did last week? I thought you said it would be based on that information. You just said based on the information that we were given last week that you were not sure of whether it was valid, that's why you wanted to rescind this resolution that we passed last week for the water. But you're saying you don't know whether it's true or not, so why would we rescind the resolution if we don't know if the facts...
Because once the minutes are typed up and the mayor signs them, then what he said about being part of the agreement, us not being able to rescind it is true and it's done. If we rescind it tonight and then decide later on that it's in the best interest to go back and do the resolution, we can always do that. We can do it as many times as we want. We can't undo it.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote on the motion to rescind.
May I say something?
Sure.
One of the businesses that we did here was going out of town. I made a call to Lester Goldberg because, we heard the rumor that Goldberg's was going out of business. Well, I called Lester, and he assured me that, no, he was going to stay in business until he retired. I mean, that's all that, that's all that I know about the one business that we did here.
That was one of the ones I had in mind. So
as far as the 5 and 10 goes, I don't know.
Well, what I'm saying is that was one of the things that was discussed last week. Obviously, that's not true now. I think we ought to find out what else is not true that we found out last week.
But
before this is a done deal.
But why didn't you do that before tonight's meeting?
Because when this first came up, and George mentioned about businesses downtown going out, I looked over to Lester and Vic, and they both went like this. I think we should take our time on this, not rush into it like we did last week, and find out the facts.
Well, you got a motion on the floor, and let's vote on it.
Motion to rescind the resolution of August 31st regarding the City of Fulton providing the River Glen strip mall with 11,000 gallons of water and sewer.
Ian had a question before we take a vote.
Have a motion by Alderman Myers, a second. By Alderman Rice. First ward.
No.
Second ward.
Yes.
Fourth ward.
Yes.
Fifth ward.
Without seeing the signed contracts of what they are, I'll abstain from a vote.
Sixth ward.
No.
Mayor.
No. I can't answer that question. I don't know. I really don't know. Well, you're drawing a conclusion that may not necessarily be true, because the resolution authorized me to sign a contract.
That's exactly what I would like to know myself, Ron, before I vote.
Joe, the resolution's defeated. It is. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
This is just pertaining to the extra 7,000 gallons. We're still locked into 4,000 gallons. Is that correct?
No.
There was nothing ever done with this 4,000?
Then rescinded.
We rescinded the 4,000 gallons.
Yeah, but 4,000 gallons was passed.
Right, but we rescinded the 4,000 gallons of water and sewer to Bruce Clark and to Larry Rowley. We rescinded those two resolutions, okay? And then we passed one for wide waters for 11,000 gallons of water and sewer.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
We have a vote of 3 no, 2 yes, and 1 abstain.
The motion is defeated. Okay. Motion adjourned to executive session.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Oh, wait a second.
I'd like to just say something. I think that the businesses do have a personal interest. After all, it is their money. But every time another local business goes out, the taxpayers have to pick up the difference in the money. So I think that they're just thinking of all of the people. And as you've talked to many experts, I talked to people 2 years ago at Price Chopper, and James Way isn't bankrupt, by the way, locally. It's a mess at the top, so it has nothing to do with Fulton. But I talked to some experts, my experts, who've told me that what's going to happen is that Price Chopper and James Way are just going to close down, and you're just going to have Kmart and PNC. This area isn't big enough to support both, so you aren't going to create more jobs. You're just going to transfer the minimum wage jobs from one part of the city out of the city. That's up to the people. I don't care. I don't have any questions on the water and sewer, but I want to ask the media this or the Common Council. On the meeting last Tuesday, did the Common Council notify their newspaper, the one newspaper that they deal with? Did they notify them ahead of time of the meeting?
All the media was notified.
The media received notice ahead of time? Is that true? The media is present. Did you receive a notice before the meeting last Tuesday? An executive session, but not a public open meeting. Okay. Contract negotiations. So, okay.
Okay, we were just viewing September 7th, 1993 of the City Fulton Common Council meeting on the annexation of the Wide Waters project of Kmart Shopping Plaza, River Glen Mall. We're going to go back to March 11th, 1993, Valony Town Board on their discussion of the annexation of River Glen Square Mall.
reading. I'll move it.
Second.
Byron Polk, Town Board.
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner. Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. Next resolution, number 65. I will move that the minutes of the regular board meeting held at 7:10 p.m. Thursday, 11 February 1993, in the Volney Municipal Building, having been distributed, they be approved without reading. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Byron, will you poll the council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No, and I'd like on page 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 sentence down, it says Councilman Rose said he was not sure if annexation was or wasn't the answer. The idea of a guarantee is difficult. Maybe we are being difficult. I don't recall ever saying maybe we are being difficult in my statements, and I'd like that stricken from the record.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
I'll vote aye, but I still feel that the minutes should, every now and then, should be read at the meeting.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next resolution, number 66. And I will move that the minutes of the special joint meeting of the Volney Town Board and the City of Fulton Common Council held on 23 February 1993, having been distributed to the board members, be approved without reading. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'd like to make some comments concerning this meeting and what led up to it.
Want to vote first?
No, this is discussion.
All right.
The reason it came about is because at the Fulton's Common Council meeting of February 16, at which time I happened to be present, the mayor, George Villette, questioned me about the possibility of a joint meeting of the Volney Town Board with the City Council to discuss a possible resolution of the River Glen Square Shopping Center as it relates to the city supplying an additional 10,000 gallons per day of water and sewer services. Accordingly, we talked, the mayor and I talked, we set up a date of the following Tuesday, February 23. I immediately sent a memorandum to the board here, and I want to underline this, to the mayor of the city of Fulton, and announcing that we would be meeting jointly in the Fulton Municipal Building at 7:30 p.m. and urging our council's attendance. In that memorandum to the council, I pointed out, and I'm going to read this now from that memorandum. I would like to remind you of some points made in our resolution passed at the February 11 regular board meeting, in which we rejected annexation to the city of Fulton. Such a development would provide significant economic benefits for the town, city, and county, including jobs for over 400 area residents with an estimated annual payroll of $2.7 million. Further, it is the common goal of the municipalities to find a solution to ensure progress and economic development. Finally, and what I personally consider a very viable option, the sharing of local, county, and school taxes by the town, county, and school boards with the city of Fulton. Something that I want to stress here is that with this option, the town and county are relinquishing considerable revenue to the city of Fulton without any corresponding benefits to the town or county. Further, the city will not be responsible for any services to the subject property other than water and sewer, for which the Wide Waters Group will be paying a premium price to the city. Now, I want to say one thing more, that offer still goes. That is still viable. The county, and I think I speak for the rest of the town board, we are still willing, if that project can be completed in its entirety as originally scheduled, and they get the desired water and sewer services, that offer still goes. It is a viable option. Apparently, the mayor and the city council had second thoughts about this joint meeting, because they, without advising anybody except themselves, held a special meeting the Monday night previous to when we were going to meet jointly. And they passed a resolution, as you may know, to legally proceed with forced annexation of the town. All I can say is that this very effectively put a damper on any meaningful resolution to Wide Waters Group need for additional water and sewer service. It just put it. We met, and the city had already said, we're going ahead with forced annexation. I think that by doing this, the mayor and common council thought that I would then cancel Tuesday night's meeting. I didn't. We went ahead. Unfortunately, nothing meaningful happened at that meeting. It couldn't. Thankfully, Wide Waters didn't completely abandon the project and is proceeding with just Kmart and a restaurant. Fulton has said they will only provide the previously agreed upon 4,000 gallons of water and sewer services to Wide Waters. That they have to limit their project because they cannot get enough water and sewer services. I'm thankful that Wide Waters is proceeding. They had every right to say, we don't want to come here. You don't want us. I think the political cartoon that appeared in last Thursday's March 4 edition of the Powell Times speaks well about this issue. It shows the mayor of the city of Fulton as a juggler, and he's got balls that he's trying to juggle, but he's dropping them. He's dropped one called the proposed hospital. Another one he drops is the budget. Another one, Kmart Shopping Center. To this, I'd like to add two more balls that he's dropped. Banning of all vending at Bullhead Point. Another one, he's now imposing restrictive sanctions relative to the property for the YMCA's new building. Now, we are being characterized as being the bad guys in not wanting Fulton to piecemeal annex the town. I submit it is the mayor and the common council as being as regressive as any municipality can possibly be. Byron, will you poll the council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye.
Now we go to February 11th, 1993, and the annexation of River Glen Square Mall, and the proceedings of February 11th tape is now.
Byron, will you call the roll?
Councilman Ridgway.
Here.
Councilman Rose.
Here.
Councilwoman Smart.
Here.
Councilman Warner.
Here.
Supervisor McFarland.
Here. The first public hearing is, I will read what is required of the public notice. It's a resolution in order. Whereas Larry E. Rowley has presented to the town board of the town of Valmy a petition for the establishment of Glen 2 Sanitary Sewer District, and whereas said petition is made pursuant to Article 12 of town law, and whereas Larry E. Rowley is the sole owner of taxable and assessed real property situated within the proposed Glen 2 Sanitary Sewer District, and whereas the real property within the Glen 2 Sanitary Sewer District is wholly situated within the said town of Valmy, and whereas the legal description of the real property within the Glen 2 Sanitary Sewer District is more particularly described on Schedule A, Annex Tier 2, and whereas the proposed cost of the town of Valmy for the improvements specified in the petition and the cost of services to be provided by the town of Valmy is none. Now therefore it be resolved as follows, that the town board, the town of Valmy accepts for filing with the town clerk the petition for establishment of the Glen 2 Sanitary Sewer District in the town of Valmy as presented by Larry E. Rowley. And be it further resolved that the town board shall meet in public session on February 11, 1993 at 7 p.m. at the Valmy Town Hall to conduct a public hearing and consider said petition and hear all persons interested in the subject matter of said petition. And be it ordered that the town clerk shall cause to be published a certified copy of this resolution / order at least once in the official newspaper of the town of Valmy. The first publication thereof to be not less than 10 days nor more than 20 days before the date set for the hearing described herein. And said town clerk is further ordered to cause a certified copy of said resolution order to be published on the signboard of the town of Valmy, maintained pursuant to section 30(6) of the town law. Said posting to be not less than 10 days, no more than 20 days before the date designated for the public hearing as aforesaid, and be it further resolved that the aforesaid petition is made pursuant to Article 12 of the town law, and be it further resolved that this resolution / order is made pursuant to Section 193 of the town law. That was dated January 25, 93, and was signed by Byron L. Rowley, town clerk, which fulfills our legal obligation here. I will now open up the public hearing. If you have anything to say for or against this particular petition, I ask that you stand up, state your name, and address the town board. I would like to repeat that what we are doing today is basically formally following through with what previous town councils have approved for this development in Glen 2. It is not something new. It is simply a formal approval of that. Before we begin the public hearing, Jerry, who is representing Larry Rowley today, Jerry Miravito, do you have anything to say?
Not really, Supervisor. I presented the members of the town board and the town clerk with the proposed resolutions and orders approximately 4 to 6 weeks ago, and asked at that time if there were any questions to ask either myself or Mr. Rowley as to either the legalities or the actual structure that will be going in there. We've also received letters from the town attorney that they've approved the papers that have been prepared and submitted to the town. We don't really have any other things to say. We could answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any public comment or questions? There are none. Hearing none. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
Byron, poll the council.
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. I will now call the second public hearing for the Glen 2 Water District to order. For the record, Byron, we will indicate that the same members of the council are present. This is basically the same as the previous resolution. I will not read it in its entirety since the wording is almost exactly the same, with the exception that is for a water district rather than a sewer district. Whereas Larry Rowley has presented to the town board, the town of Volney, a petition for the establishment of extension number 1 for the Glen Water District, and whereas said petition is made pursuant to Article 12 of the town law, and whereas Larry E. Rowley is the sole owner of taxable and assessed real property situated within the proposed extension number 1 for the Glen Water District, and whereas the real property within extension 1 for the Glen Water District is wholly situated within the said town of Volney, and whereas the legal description of the real property within extension number 1 for the Glen Water District is more particularly described on Schedule A annexed here 2, and whereas the proposed cost of the town of Volney for the improvements specified in the petition, the cost of services to be provided by the town of Volney is none. I will stop there and open the public hearing to any comment if there is any. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Anybody? Thank you. Byron, you poll the council.
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. Next order of business is communications, and the only one I have is I have received from the Oswego County Department of Planning and Community Development a letter from Ed Marks along with a Oswego County Planning Board brochure called Oswego River Scenic Assessment. And I'll read it. I think it's something that's very progressive and that this town will probably be involved with in the sometime in the future. Dear Mr. McFarland, enclosed is a copy of the Oswego River Scenic Assessment Report recently completed by our office. The study was undertaken to increase the appreciation of the river by identifying projects which will improve the visual quality of and provide physical access to the river. The report provides information on a number of aspects of the river, including its significance to local communities, the county, and the state. An inventory of existing resources along the river corridor between Phoenix and Oswego, and techniques for maintaining scenic quality along the river through individual as well as community efforts. The report also discusses a number of projects which will enhance visual quality and public access to the river. It is hoped that these projects will be completed over the next 3 to 5 years as part of the development of an Oswego River loop of the Seaway Trail and through implementation of the New York State Canal Development Plan. A number of project areas which could attract to form a proposed riverway trail between the city of Fulton and the village of Phoenix are located within the town of Volney. The County Department of Planning and Community Development is hopeful that this report will provide information and incentive for individuals, communities, and other agencies to work together in maintaining the Oswego River as a recommended.
I'd like to make several comments. The first was you did very well at the meeting with a special joint meeting with Volney Town Board and City of Fulton Common Council. It was snowing too much for me that night, so I didn't get down there. But I saw it on television, and I see that you distributed minutes to the board members. And did you, by any chance, catch Mayor Villette's last comment? I was surprised that none of you reacted to it, and I don't think this is going to be on the minutes. But he said, and if I may quote, this should put the quietus, I think that's
means kibosh, I'm not sure. This should put the quietus on development and bounding. And it sounded very much to me like he was saying, no more water, folks. And maybe you were all getting ready to go out the door, but I was appalled that he would say that, and nobody responded to it. The 400 gallons a day of water that they're going to provide to the mall. 4,000 gallons a day. It's my understanding, talking to one of the aldermen in there, that this was passed by resolution and it can be unpassed by resolution. He pointed that out to me. I don't know if it's true or not.
That is true, but they passed it a couple of years ago.
Well.
And hello again, my name is Terry Reynolds from Save Video Productions. This is a special assignment for me that I'm doing. Now we move on to the City of Fulton Common Council on the annexation of the Widewaters and the Kmart Shopping Plaza. The City of Fulton Common Council meeting is September 21st, 1993. And let's view what happened during September 21st, 1993.
First Ward. Here. Second Ward. Third Ward.
Here.
Fourth Ward.
Here.
Fifth Ward.
Here.
Sixth Ward.
Here.
Mayor's here. First item, please.
Whereas on August 31st, 1993, the City of Fulton Common Council passed a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the owner of the proposed River Glen Square Mall to provide water and sewer services to the mall. And whereas on September 8, 1993, the mayor entered into such a contract with the owners of the proposed River Glen Square Mall. And whereas the City of Fulton Common Council wishes to ratify its actions as set forth above. And whereas notice to the public and media of said ratification of this meeting was duly published. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Number one, that the Common Council has reconsidered its actions as set forth above, and hereby reconfirms its findings and ratifies and adopts, as if herein fully set forth, said resolution and contract, and agrees to provide the owner of River Glen Square Mall 11,000 gallons of water and sewer per day for the use by a Kmart store, a supermarket, and Hardee's restaurant, and rescind any resolution awarding Rowley and/or Clark water and sewer rights for River Glen Square Mall. Two, that the Common Council adopts the findings of the Town of Valmy Planning Board as lead agency that the proposed River Glen Square Mall with water and sewer services provided by the City of Fulton would have no substantial adverse impact on the environment.
This resolution is to resolve the problem that has arisen over the legality of the meeting that was held in executive session preceding the resolution awarding water and sewer to River Glen Square Mall, commonly known as the Kmart Mall, and the subsequent contract that was signed by me pursuant to the resolution. The city has been sued on this, claiming that that meeting was illegal. This now gives the council an opportunity to determine whether they wish to ratify and adopt that resolution and that contract, and thereby avoid a lot of litigation and expense and a lot of furor. Present is attorney for Widewaters, the developer of River Glen Square Mall, Nancy Hornick, and when I have her come up and explain the position of Widewaters. I'm also going to state this. Now, this matter was thoroughly covered in the last meeting. We're not going to have a repeat from the people who were present at that meeting over again and go through all of that. Anyone who was here that was not at that meeting, the last Common Council meeting, may address that issue if they wish, but no one else. Nancy?
It's not Russia.
Sit down, Percy. You're out of order.
I'll stand up.
Sit down or I'll call the police up here.
Go.
No, judge now!
My name is Nancy Hornick. I'm an attorney for Hancock and Estabrook, and I represent the development of the proposed shopping mall.
The meeting is going to be conducted in order. You don't have any business up there, Mr. Patrick, and you're not running this meeting.
You have to
You're
back
not the
back,
mayor
you
now.
have to stand up. You've got to back back.
You're not the mayor now.
You've got to back back, you have to stand up.
Well, you stand at the
Doctor's order.
back of the room then. Nancy?
Thank you very much. As I said, Nancy Hornick from Hancock and Estabrook, representing the developer of the proposed mall. What we'd like to do this evening is reiterate the need and our wish to come in using the city water and sewer to build a nice shopping center. We have come in looking for and receiving a contract to provide sewer and water services only for what we call our anchor tenants. In order to make a profit on the shopping mall, we will be coming back in the future with smaller shop developments, and at that point, we will need additional sewer and water. We originally, when we approached the City Council, had wanted unlimited sewer and water, which the City Council was not willing to give us because they wanted to see us come back for further negotiations. So we have gone ahead and accepted what the City Council would give us, which was only up to 11,000 gallons for the proposed anchor tenants, which are the grocery store, the Kmart, and the drive-through Hardee's restaurant. At this time, I'd just like to remind the council that we have relied on the 1989 resolution to provide services as well as on the August 1993 resolution to provide the services. We're looking at an $8 to $10 million investment here. We have relied on that, and it is very important that we protect our rights. I know that litigation has been threatened. I understand it has been instituted, but I have seen no papers concerning this matter. But we are not in a position where we'd like to become adversarial with the city, but we do have a very large investment. We have a great deal of time and money invested into this, and we must protect our rights, even if that means that we have to go into litigation ourselves to enforce the resolutions and contracts upon which we have relied. With regard to the concern about the amount of sewer and proliferation of services without coming back to negotiate with the city, we have limited it. I think as you've read the contract and as you worded the resolution, as you worded the resolution at the last meeting, you have limited that only to our anchor tenants. So that is not something that I would think that the council would be concerned with. If the city council were not to go ahead and ratify the contract and the resolution, as I said, we would be forced to try to protect our rights. That would include litigation, expensive for everyone as well as for my client. The last thing they want to do is spend unnecessary funds on attorneys in court. But also, you should understand that this mall has gotten to a point where we can't stop. We have to go forward. If that means that we can't have the city sewer and water services, there are alternatives. We do have the alternative, which we would rather not use because it is more expensive, of going with the Metropolitan Development water and using septic services. If that becomes necessary, that's what we're prepared to do. But that will make our project much more expensive, and we will be coming back to the city and the council and looking to rely on the resolutions and the contracts to help us bring that together. We really want to work together with the city. We don't want to be in an adversarial position. We want to go ahead and develop the mall as it's proposed and then come back to the city after we've financed the anchor tenants and we've got that up and going. When we're ready to come back and really make a profit on the mall with the additional tenants, that's when we'd like to come back to the city to find some sort of position where we can get additional sewer and water, either from the city or the town or some agreement between the two municipalities. We're open to all sorts of different suggestions, but at this point, we've got to go forward. And as I said, we don't want to be adversarial. In addition, I've reviewed the contract, I've reviewed the resolution. It's our position that those are binding. But because of this litigation and the threats, we would ask that the City Council ratify the resolution and the contract so that We don't have to spend monies, nor does the city have to spend monies defending a decision that you've already made. And I will stay this evening through the end of this to answer questions if the council has any, but at this point, I think, unless you have any right now, that's our position. We don't want to be adversarial, but we just want to keep moving, and all we're asking to do is to honor the agreements and the representations that you've already made. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. What it all boils down to then, if the contract and the resolution is not ratified and the group who have started this lawsuit against the city go ahead, and if they are successful in voiding that meeting and the resolution, then we're facing a lawsuit from Whitewaters on the contract. And in the end, if nothing else works, they're going to do it anyway. So all the efforts of this group, or anyone who is trying to stop them, is going to be of no avail. It's going to mean a lot of litigation, a lot of hard feelings, and any chance there ever would be, if there ever was a chance, of annexing that mall into the city is long gone. So all we got is a lose-lose situation. And all the furor about this is because some of the merchants think that if this goes through, they're doomed to extinction, when in fact that is not true. There are 2 cities that I know of that have prospered as a result. And I'm not going to go into all that detail again because that was all aired out at the last meeting. Now, if there's anyone here that wasn't at the last Common Council meeting that wants to be heard, you can be heard. George? Rick? Were you at the last meeting, Rick?
Yes, I was.
I'm sorry. Only those that were not here can speak.
Your Honor, excuse me, Your Honor. He called me this afternoon and asked to be put on the agenda, and he is under discussion. Okay.
Well, you're under discussion, and when we get to that item, you can speak.
But it has a direct bearing on this issue that we're discussing
You're
here.
still, I'm sorry, a rule is a rule. I'm gonna enforce it.
George, Your Honor,
I wasn't here, Mayor.
first of all, I have some questions for the attorney.
Nancy, you want to come back up, please? John, you want to let her up to the mic?
I just want you to know I wasn't here.
I understand.
When is the construction supposed to be completed on these stores?
Right now, we're in the grading stage. We hope to start footers in October or early November. And it's possible that construction would be completed this fall, more likely in the spring.
So realistically, you're looking at next year.
Right. What we need to finance, though, before we start the construction, so we're looking at October to finance. And as you're probably all aware, in order for the bank to give us the large sums of money, especially in today's economy, they want proof that we have adequate sewer and water services to serve the portions of the project that we're constructing at this time. And that's why we were able to limit that to the Kmart, the grocery store, and the drive-through restaurant. At this time, we will need additional services in the future, but we're not financing those this fall.
Because we had quite a bit of discussion last winter, February, January, about this whole thing, and we were told that they had a March 1st deadline. So we had a joint council meeting with the town of Albany February 23rd to try to iron out some kind of deal that would allow them to start construction or start paperwork or whatever they had to do by March 1st. And they said if it doesn't pass, then this whole thing is done, or we may look at drilling our own wells, having our own sewage treatment plant like that. March 1st deadline went by, and nothing's happened. Now you're back again saying, well, we have a new deadline, and we still want the water and sewer, or else we can get our own water, our own sewer. And, you know, how many times are we going to fall for the song and dance about, well, we have these deadlines to meet?
Well, the deadlines are generally created by the agreement struck with the financing institutions. And Widewaters, as most large development companies are, don't have one financing institution that they always go to. especially in today's economy, they search for the best deal that they can get for their financing. And so the deadlines are generally financing driven, where you have an agreement and you can get the financing if you have certain permits and certain construction or agreements struck by that date. And as with almost every development, especially in today's slower market, there are always pitfalls that will stop you, and then you lose that financing deal, and then while you're correcting whatever the problem is, whether it be a town permit problem where they want something more, or a problem with one of your tenants, you're looking for another financing deal. And so my supposition is that they probably had a finance deal that had a deadline that they lost, but they now have additional financing that they are in the negotiation stage with, that they feel they will be able to go ahead and pull together in October. They've got some preliminary financing that they're doing themselves so that they can start the actual clearing work to be ready to start the footers in October or November. But at the time they do the footers, that's such a large expense for the project that they do have to get financing outside of just their internal monies.
The main part of the discussion in February with the town of Albany was that we wanted the property owners to petition to annex into the city. That would give them all the water and sewer that they wanted. We can't stop somebody from taking water and sewer if they're within the city limits. I found out from the New York Conference of Mayors that without the town's approval, it would take about 6 months to do that. If they had started those proceedings back then, they would have been in the city of Fulton. They would have gotten all the water and sewer they wanted. And I don't think, obviously, this meeting wouldn't have to happen. Everybody would be happy, possibly for the town of Albany. And that's, I'd like to see that process start again now. In the spring, it would be done, hopefully to our benefit, where they would be allowed to come into the city. They can have all the water and sewer they want, and have the construction within the city, and would have the sales tax and the property tax, and you'd have all the water and sewer that you need. You wouldn't have to worry about just the 3 stories. You can build as many stories as you want.
So what you're saying is it's not a concern with really giving the sewer and water services, but you would want us to be a part of the city
Exactly.
in order to do that?
And that was the position of all 7 of us last February.
Well, as I said a little bit earlier, the shopping center is in a position now where they really do not want to enter into an adversarial relationship with either the town or the city. What we would like to do is try to work something out so that it can be amicably agreed upon. If the answer is annexation, we'd like to try to work it out so that the city and town are both behind it, instead of getting into some protracted litigation over whether there will be annexation or there won't, while the property sits there undeveloped or just partially developed. We feel that there can be such agreements struck. There can be ways that either we stay in the town or we are in the city, but in either case, both the town and the city benefit, as well as the property owner and the developer. But we feel that's going to take some negotiation, and also we're in a position right now that we can just be held up. In other words, you can't go forward, and every day that we lose, we're losing money. Had that project been developed by the March 1st deadline, they would be soon in a position to finance and go forward to the profit stage of the project. Their carrying costs are enormous with the project. Their costs for options and extensions, their costs on attorneys and engineering fees, the soft costs are just enormous, and they would like to get moving right away. They would like to find some sort of solution that would be amicable to everyone.
Well, Nancy, doesn't Whitewater's facing a deadline with Kmart? Either, as I understood it, by October they had to be in construction, or they were not going to...
They have leasing deadlines with all of their tenants, the 3 tenants that they have now, and they also have problems with tenants that the negotiation for tenant process begins several years before the public actually hears about the tenant. It's a very competitive market out there for shopping centers to bring in quality tenants. And so that negotiation process for smaller tenants for this project has already started. So not only do we jeopardize our tenants, our anchor tenants, which are not profitable to the developer. The anchor tenant is the one that brings the customer to the mall and then therefore also brings the smaller retail or other business type uses in the surrounding area to the mall, which is what becomes profitable under the lease to the developer or the owner of the property. And at this time, we do have, and I really cannot get into the details of the negotiations because, as I said, it's very, very competitive right now for not only the large anchor tenants such as Kmart, but also the smaller tenants. They're very competitive. Malls are not doing well in several locations, but quality malls such as the ones that Widewaters builds or shopping centers such as the ones that Widewaters builds are very good. They have an excellent relationship with the tenants, but they too are in the economy now where they have to be very careful. They're in negotiation with smaller tenants, which I think would be of benefit to the city and the town, the residents, to have them in the area, as well as the businesses, because aside from what several businessmen may feel that a new shopping center will put them out of business, it's been Widewaters' experience and other developers that I've dealt with in the past experience that the quality shopping centers actually help to enhance the existing small businesses that are in the area, especially those that are good small businesses, local businesses and specialty type shops. It will help to bring quality customers to the area as well as to those shops. So it's very important to us that we meet our deadlines not only for Kmart, but that we're able to show that the construction is going forward so that we can continue with negotiations for the smaller tenants. Once those negotiations are struck, we'll be back in here looking for additional sewer and water services, and at that point we'll be in a position to negotiate with the city and with the town, and perhaps it would turn out to be annexation, or perhaps it would turn out to be some other amicable agreement between the city and town. If something can't be struck that's amicable, of course we need the sewer and water. Of course the least expensive way is to come through the city, especially if we already have our project started with sewer and water from the city's services, and at which time it would probably not be economical to construct our own services, which is the option I alluded to earlier. So I think that if the City Council is willing to go ahead and ratify this, and we can move forward, I think that you're going to find, as well as are the citizens of the city and the town and the businessmen in the city and the town, that it's going to be to everyone's benefit in the future. But I really can't stand here and discuss specifics of lease negotiations or where we would be willing to go in the future, because in today's economy, everything is so competitive, and you have to be very careful with your tenants or you lose them. I hope I answered your question.
I wasn't looking for specifics of lease negotiations, but as I said before, this is the same story we heard last winter when they said that we had to have this finalized by March 1st because Kmart said that's the deadline. If you don't sell things by
Jim,
March
excuse
1st,
me.
we're not.
You've gone, wait a minute, you've gone all through that,
Well,
and you're only repeating yourself all over again.
I can maybe be a little bit better
Well,
at
I'd
my
like to
answer.
finish my comment.
Okay.
We heard the same thing last winter, that Kmart needed had a March 1st deadline, and if they didn't get it, they weren't coming in at all. And now they're back here in the fall saying the same thing. We have this deadline, or we're not coming in at all.
Well,
Isn't that the same question you asked her originally?
That's all right. As you, without getting into details of the agreement, as you probably all know from any sort of an agreement, there's always, when you have a deadline, there's always the ability for the person whose deadline is being missed, in this case Kmart, to say, that's it, we're going to go somewhere else. We no longer are contractually bound to come in here. They also have the alternative or the option of saying, okay, we'll give you another year, we'll stay, but you got to give to us. And it costs the developer, maybe it's less rent, maybe it's more services to Kmart, maybe the developer has to pay for more of the improvements right around the Kmart area to get them to come back and give an extension. So although you may perceive it as a false deadline, Widewaters, in fact, has just gone back in many cases where you wouldn't even notice and negotiated further extensions. They always have to give something up for that, which maybe you say that's okay, they're the developer. They should have to give something up, but Kmart and the other tenants are not required or not contractually bound to go ahead. At some point, they're going to stop saying, we want something in return, and then we'll stay. They'll just go elsewhere. They, you know, as a large chain like that, always have other deals in the works, too. And at some point, timing is going to start to cost them too much, and it's not going to be feasible for them to agree to renegotiate extensions of our missed deadlines. So I think that if you perceived it as Widewaters saying they had a deadline that wasn't there, that's unfortunate. That's not the case. It's just that we can't come out and show you the terms of the contract. We can't come out to you every time we miss something and we have to renegotiate. All we can say in good faith is we do develop good centers. We have good tenant relationships. We have good tenant mixes in all our centers. And we're doing the best that we can. We've put so much into this project that it's not a position now where we can walk away. Maybe if this were early on in the project and we saw a lot of opposition, we could walk away and find another site and still use our tenants. We're not in that position now, so we're going to have to fight for what we've relied on, but we don't want to get adversarial, if at all possible, between the city and the town or anything, at least not at this stage. There's just too much at stake for us.
Wait a minute. Jim, we got to end this sometime. There's an awful lot of people out there, and I don't see what else you can cover on this thing that hasn't already been covered. Thank you, Nancy. Tommy, when you are up to speak, you can speak. Otherwise, please.
Mayor, I'd like to ask her one question.
Shorten her answer.
It's impossible for a lawyer to shorten your answers.
Tommy, would you mind?
Nancy,
You've been on the council, you know what it's like.
Yes.
Why didn't Widewaters start annexation proceedings back in last February?
Well,
I mean, this would have been a...
annexation is a difficult process. It's a very straightforward process in that it's set forth in the statute. But it's difficult. You've got two municipalities, and if they both agree, it's a very simple process. If they disagree, you put the developer in the middle, and you can... litigation over annexation can go on for years and years, which leaves you with a center that's not been developed. Or annexation can be completed within a couple of months. When we were approached about the possibility of annexation, we were also looked into it, and then we're told the town of Volney absolutely is against that. They're not going to go with it, and they're going to hold you up forever if you get involved.
Okay, and we tried to negotiate with the town of Volney, and you're talking about an amicable negotiating. I don't think you're going to find that, and you're going to find annexation very difficult, and like you just said, take years and years to do. In those years, the city of Fulton could lose enough sales tax to make it go under.
Well, I would like to answer your question, but I'm not sure how clear I can make myself. In the event that we are already a shopping center, and then we go to the table with the town and the city, and annexation is not necessarily the only alternative. There are other financing alternatives that can be arranged between the two municipalities.
We offered the town of Volney $100,000 a year to have that to go along with annexation, and they chose $15,000, which would be your sales tax. So
property tax.
Property tax, I mean. So you're going to find it very difficult working with the town of Volney over annexation. And my big fear is this will be dragged out for a long, long time.
Well, that's always a possibility. But it's also a possibility that we can get started, get developed, go to the town of Volney and work something out amicable, whether it be annexation or something else that's good for the city, and make it go through more quickly when we are in a position to spend the time. But right now, we're in a position where we have to go forward, and we have to protect the tenants and the contracts that we have in order to move along. We are not in our profit financing stage. As I said, we're looking to finance and develop just the anchor tenants. And we will be back for the smaller tenants that we are now looking forward to.
Excuse me a minute, Nancy. Regardless of what might have been or could have been, the fact now is that if you don't have the water and sewer to go ahead, and if they succeed in that lawsuit, then you're going to bring a lawsuit. Isn't that what this all boils down to?
Yes, if this lawsuit goes forward, we would want to intervene to defend. It's our position that the contract is valid and the city is bound by that contract. If the city is not required through the courts to go ahead with that contract, we will have to pursue alternatives. In those cases, there would be no future negotiation with the city because we would have burned our bridges with the city. Once we get into protracted litigation with you and we go ahead if we have to and spend the monies on alternative methods for providing sewer and water services, there isn't a future option of possible annexation or possible other agreement between the city, the town, and the developer.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comment. Dorothy?
Well, I'm a nonpartisan speaker from the 6th Ward and a senior. I would like to know, if this goes through, what's going to happen to our water and sewer tax? It's outrageous. The sewer tax is outrageous now. And if you're living on a fixed income, taxes
Won't have any effect at all on that. They'll be paying...
Can you make a promise that will happen?
Yeah. They'll be paying 125% of the city's charges on water and sewer. That's what they'll pay. And we have ample supplies of both, so there's no reason to increase our water and sewer charges to the residents of the city. Any more than any of the other people outside the city. That hasn't changed the situation here in the city.
I wouldn't have had the time.
Pardon?
I would like to address my another to Ross.
John?
I think I'm lucky that I wasn't here the last time. Because it
all depends.
gives me more of a chance to talk
I'm not sure
by myself.
that's true, but whatever.
It seems to me that one of the things I don't like ever is to someone to tell us we should do this with the threat of a club if we don't.
Well, John, excuse me a minute, because that's exactly what this coalition of merchants and the Patricks are doing. They're holding a club over this council's head.
And if you had done it correctly, I wouldn't have had a club. Now, that began, and what you've done, I think it comes down very simply to this, and a lot of good things were said by the attorney. One, that this is a very competitive time. Everything is that way. And I would say that it would be very easy for us to negotiate with Kmart if they would give us 3% on every sale that they make in place of the sales tax. We wouldn't have a problem, okay? That's what we're talking about. It's a very, very competitive business, and that 3% makes a lot of difference competing against every business in the city of Fulton. Now, more importantly than that, in my opinion, is what we're really asking is that each of the people that participated in the first decision have an opportunity, based on what has happened in the past week, to look and think about why they were elected, the duties and the jobs that they have to this city, and that whether there is a lawsuit or not, they have an opportunity to say, I've changed my mind. And it takes a big man or woman to say that. But if you have a chance to look at the damage that can be done to the city of Fulton, and that if the only price you pay now is this threat of a lawsuit, you have the opportunity to show to each of your people that you're big enough to say the city of Fulton is important to me, and I realize that perhaps I was in error. Well, that's what we're really talking about tonight, aren't we? And I think that these people, I don't care. I think they really down deep inside them have that feeling. I can't believe that either any one of them are doing this because they don't feel that it's good for the city. The question is judgment as to whether it is good for the city or whether it isn't. And the big problem is that if we have it and it goes ahead and it takes the time to change it, the damage to the city of Fulton will be done. And then it doesn't mean anything. Because if we have more vacant buildings like the KBC and the Jamesway, and those places are hurt by this, it's too late to make these changes. Now that's what we need, is we need to have somebody, and I think it should be you, George, because you and I have gone through this for 30-some years, trying to fight somebody that's bigger and doing it. And I think it's time, maybe you're the one that will show that you're man enough to change your mind.
I ain't man enough to change my mind any day, John. But you know what amazes me about all this? This city of Fulton, from the beginning, has gone through a transition. There are a lot of businesses that were here years ago that have gone through competition. There are a lot of cities in this country that have competition of this kind. And why are we so unique? Why are we the only ones in the country, perhaps, that can't change? Why should we say no to any change that comes about? Simply because there are some merchants here who are afraid they're going to be hurt and afraid that they can't adapt and they can't change. Why? I don't understand.
3% sales tax, George. That's the difference. You walk across the street and you buy it at 3% less. Why should you do that to the...
So what about the Oswego and Northern Lights, John, where the people are going there and spending their money?
Yes,
what's
and you
the
pay
difference?
7% there, don't you?
You'd rather have them go up
you
there?
You pay 7% there, don't you?
Yeah,
but you don't pay it here. That's the difference, George. If you can't see that, you've got a problem.
Perhaps very
Will you
succinctly,
please let
I
her
can
speak,
make myself
please?
clear. This is not a question of whether we get the sewer and water and we come, or whether we don't get the sewer and water and we don't come. The mall is going to be constructed. We've gone too far to stop. There are alternative methods. They're not as favorable to us and they're not as economically attractive to us to get our sewer and water. So the question is not, is this business going to be here or is it not? The question is the mall going to be here with sewer and water services from the city and revenues to the city and possible future negotiations, or is it going to be here with nothing else for the city because the city has reneged on its resolution and contract upon which we relied?
Thank you, Nancy.
You didn't participate in it, George. It comes that way, you didn't participate.
My name is Tim.
Making it here for.
My name is Tim Cole. I'm a property owner in Fulton, in the city of Fulton. I'd like to put a different slant on this, George.
Okay.
We keep talking about the fact that we're trying to protect Fulton. You're trying to position this whole thing as the opponents of this are against progress in the city. That's not true. If this mall were part of Fulton and we get sales tax from it, I don't think you'd have this meeting. Okay, the small businesses would be hurt, but that's competition, George. What I'm concerned about is we negotiated with the town of Volney to annex this land. We did not get an agreement. The first rule of negotiation is if you're going to give something away, get something in return. We're giving the rights to water and sewer services to this mall and getting nothing in return. Now, as a property owner, one of the attractive things about living in Fulton is the cost of living and low property taxes. This shortfall in sales tax that this mall is going to cause the city of Fulton is going to raise my property taxes, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Howie?
Unfortunately, I wasn't here at the last meeting, or maybe it was fortunate. I guess I got a couple of things that I'd like to ask the attorney for the project. I just understand that I see construction going on or forthgoing right now in the area, and yet they haven't got the water and sewer in place as such. She also maintains there is revenue forthcoming to the city. I don't understand what revenue is going to be generated by the project or by the stores.
What they're paying for.
And also, I understand, or she says or maintains, that after all said and done and the project is built, that the company that she represents will sit down with both city and town and negotiate annexation. I think once these things are done,
Well, wait a
this
minute,
company is all
Wait
through,
a minute.
okay?
Let's
That's my
summarize her
opinion.
correctly.
Okay.
She didn't say just annexation. She said try to work out some financial arrangement between the town and the city as well. Okay? Put the whole thing in context.
Well, okay, financial arrangement. I don't understand what kind of financial arrangement
Well, it could be a sharing.
made through either in sales tax or property tax. Let me say one thing in my own feeling. If the annexation of property stayed in the town of Olney and sales tax was generated into the city of Fulton, in itself is fine. But I have seen malls 20 years, 25 years built, the businesses are going up. Penn Can is a great one for that. Now, if this is the case that we would generate sales tax from stores that are no longer there, and yet we have to provide the services and fire and police as well as water and sewer, where are we going to be? 20 years or 25 years.
Oh,
and you
you-
look down the, wait a minute, you look down the road,
You can
George.
predict 20, 25 years from now. You're a better man than I.
No, I can't. But you know, this is the problem. You know what hindsight is, but you don't know what foresight is. But you see other malls that have gone down to where stores have gone up, bigger malls have built.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of stores that have gone down right here in the city.
Oh, that's true. But it's not. Wait a second, Your Honor.
Nothing is forever.
I guess I can't see, and I'd like to see if this person could more or less set myself at ease on where revenue is going to be generated, because water and sewer is only going to be 25% more than what we're paying ourselves.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Back in 1989, Howie, there were two resolutions passed, okay, for water and sewer. And at that time, you were on the council, and you voted in favor of this. Okay, so did Alderman Myers. Okay, what were your reasons back then for voting for the project? And was the support very strong on the position for the merchants to ask the city council at that time to annex the property into the city of Fulton?
No, the time that we voted in favor of water,
Water
no,
Water and sewer.
I did not vote in favor of water, sewer that I knew of.
Yes, you did.
I did
That's
vote
in
in
the
favor.
resolution.
Okay.
Resolutions right here.
Put it this way, my understanding was, and why I did vote in favor, was to enhance the industrial area of Mr. Raleigh, which was on Pierce Drive, not to bring in any other shopping mall, because at that time, nothing was even mentioned of any other project that was going to be intended, his development. What he wanted was water and sewer, and then it was, I think my mistake, it was only about 4,000 gallons of water.
It was 4,000 gallons.
And now
of
you're
water and
going
sewer.
almost 3 times that amount for something that wasn't even to do with that project.
I'd like to respond to that myself.
And I'm almost sorry, I mean, in that respect, because if this was a cause of it, that I even voted in favor.
That was called Pierce Drive Development. Like Howie said, that was for the trucking company, the recycling plant, Larry's office, Waltz Towing. There was no mention of a Kmart or Wide Waters or anything else at that time. And Jim McNamara is here, and you can ask him because he was also voting on it. You better believe that if there was a Kmart Plaza going in, Jim McNamara would not have voted for it.
I don't even remember.
Unless it was in the city.
No, wait a sec. Wait a second. I have the resolutions right here, and the sewage, Jim voted against it. On the water, he voted for it.
It was still Pierce Drive Development. It wasn't Wide Waters Development, and there was no mention of Kmart. This only came up about a year
I'm
ago.
asking the question because I wasn't on the council at the time.
Right, and that's why.
I just can't understand how a person can come into a city of Fulton and make a statement that they are going to work in behalf of the city through either a possible annexation or whatever other means to generate revenue into the city under the project of this Kmart plaza. The way I look at it, I think they have also put the so-called cart before the horse, starting to build before they have everything together.
Howie, let me ask you a question as a longtime former member of the council. If you were faced with the choice of either giving them water and sewer in a hope that in the future there will be some kind of agreement between the city and town whereby we would get some financial assistance, or that they go ahead anyway and get their own source of water and sewer, what choice would you make?
Well, as it stands right now, unless it annexed into the city, I would vote against it. That's my choice.
So you would...
Next.
Larry.
My name is Larry Rowley. I'm one of the two that originally came into the council back in '89. I'm one of the two that originally came in, myself and Bruce Clark, back in '89, requesting water and sewer for Pierce Drive development. It was specifically for, at that time, shopping, an Ames and a grocery store and a strip mall, a very similar strip mall. The other businesses were existing at that time. And I was very clear. I came to the council. Jim did not vote for the sewer. I don't think Jim has ever voted for anything I asked. That's no secret.
No, you did vote for the water.
Did he? I'm sorry, Jim. I take that back. Even when I did Water Tower Hill, it was a tussle. The tussles are not anything new in trying to do something in town here. But the point is, I did come in. I was very open about what I was doing. I addressed the board and asked for sewer and water. We came up with a gallonage because it was a requirement then submitted to us by the people at that time that I was working with. I came back later on and even explained that that gentleman went on to a kidney dialysis machine and just decided not to go forward, and I had obtained the Wide Waters group to work with. And I believe it was in January that I came back and made a report to this board, a progress report, if you will, told them exactly what we were doing. So I guess my point is, it has not been any secret since '89 as to what I've been trying to do up there. And in '89, we said it was a very slow process that we were working through.
Larry, excuse me a minute.
Yeah.
Did you say that those were outfits there already there at the time? These places that Jim mentioned?
Right. Yes, they were.
So they must have had well water and
had,
septic, is that right?
Right.
So they didn't need our water and sewer.
They were already... Pierce Drive has a water line on it, and it has water rights in the deeds that have been there for years. And that's even in the minutes earlier where I came in and asked to extend the water line many years ahead of that, offered to put in an 8-inch line and hydrants all the way up Pierce Drive. I was rejected on that, but because of my deed rights was allowed to make taps, and we ran large 2-inch line up the road and serviced the buildings that you're talking about. But they were in place with septic tanks at that point. But the point is, I came in and I addressed the board and the council for a strip mall. I came back and said that I had different people that I was working with, that the one party had gotten sick, made a progress report and went forward. As I'm sure you're aware by the press, I was the one that came up with the pitch to try to work with Volney and pitch the idea of the payment and the annexation, the whole thing, and went to several meetings with many of you people here between the town and the county and the town council. I can't speak for Wide Waters as far as their contractual agreements and different things, but I think the thing that I wanted to remind everybody here tonight was that this is not a surprise. Since '89, I've been coming in here and telling you exactly what I was doing. We have not altered course. We're going forward. The mall is going up. It's being cleared as we speak. They can make do, as they tell me anyway, with sewer and water. But the part that I have a hard time understanding is I've been very upfront about this whole project as far as coming to the board in '89 and back a year ago and reporting. It has not become an issue until it's become a political issue at this point. I have, well, could I finish, please?
Yeah, let it finish.
I haven't interrupted anybody. Let me finish. But the point that I was trying to make is, I guess it's going to boil down to philosophies. I think I have a lot of faith in the city and the area, and I keep investing in the area, and I keep doing things, whether it be Riverscape Apartments or Water Tower Hill or the Glen, some are in Bowling, some are in Fulton. I have a lot of faith. I keep trying to build. I keep trying to do things in this community, and I think it's going to come down to one of faith, where you look directly in front of you and see where you're standing and going to stub your toe today, or what's out in front of you. And I don't think we're looking far enough down the road. I don't think if we can't say we're going to grow and then be selective. We like you and we don't like you. I understand there is an issue here. And in listening to the lady from Widewaters, even their resolution has allowed that they have to come back and sit down and hopefully force or interest the city and the town into sitting down and hammering something out. But it just seems ridiculous to keep killing projects around this area and sticking our head in the sand. The times are changing, and we have to move ahead. I pay taxes in both communities, and I keep investing in both communities, and I've lived here my whole life. I've either lived in the city of Fulton or the town of Bowling my whole life. So I'm not a foreigner. I came before all of you. I know all of you. I presented what I was doing, and I guess that is the part that is a little disconcerting, that never once did I allude that it was going to be just for industrial use. I came in and told you exactly what it was for. And you have worked with us and would hope that you would support those decisions. I think it takes just as much guts to look forward and try to grow. The city has lost industry and businesses and has a shrinking base. I think we need new blood, but and I still think I'm optimistic that these things can still be worked out. I think that you're putting people, you got a recession anyway, and we have people that want to spend $10 million on our economy, and we're putting them in the middle of a political thing between a town and two communities, which is kind of sad.
Larry?
Thanks, Larry.
Larry, can I ask you a question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
If you've been doing this since 1989, why didn't you ask for annexation back then?
Why didn't somebody ask me in '89? It was never an issue.
I
It
guess
really wasn't.
If you have foresight like you're talking about, you ought to be looking down the road at what you need and what it takes to put this together, not waiting to 1993. I mean, you know, I'm not against the project.
No, I understand that.
What I'm against is you talk about killing a project. I don't want to kill a project, but I don't want to kill the city of Fulton either.
Yeah. Bruce, did you want to respond to that?
I just wanted to reiterate what Larry said, is that since 1989, we've come back 2 or 3 times to this council and been very upfront with the council and with the public as to what this project entails. And up until this year, no one talked about annexation. The 2 previous times that we came back and asked for water and sewer on this project, as well as other projects throughout outside the city of Fulton, for Mr. Rowley as well as for other people, no one no one talked about annexation, including areas in the city, in the town of Granby, as well as Vaughn.
Bruce, I can't speak for 1989 or 1990, but I've been here in '93, and it was brought up in February and January of '93, and nobody's gone forward yet.
I understand that.
Now that's foresight.
Well, I understand that, but you've got to also realize the position that Larry and I are in. We own the property. We're under a contract with Widewaters to sell the property to them. They're controlling what we do with the property. They have been we're not privy to everything that Widewaters does with their tenants and their stores, and not privy to everything that Widewaters discusses with the council. But that I just want to reiterate to the council that we've relied, Larry and I, put in a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of time in developing that property and reliance on the promise from the city of Fulton for the minimum of 4,000 gallons, and up front with this body right from the word go.
This gentleman?
Yes. William Maroney. I spoke to the Common Council about 6 months ago when this issue came up. At that time, I was advocating annexation, and at that time, I encouraged our Common Council to do so. And at that time, I also mentioned that Mr. Myers and I had attended a conference together where the cities of the state of New York have to annex in order to survive. And that tends to be the thing, because what we're doing is we're running out of room, that is room to expand. And so cities are different than towns. And specifically, just to use one example, the cities get a per capita rate on every residence, which is about 3.3% or 300% more than towns get. Now that's for the reason of providing sewer, water, fire protection, and those kind of things. I might preface my remarks in that I was the budget analyst for the city of Oswego for 2 years, 1988 and 89. So what I'm saying is that the future of cities depend on expansion. Now, annexation isn't a very difficult issue. Mr. Villette, you and I had a little give and take on that. Specifically, the property owners simply can vote to be annexed into the area. I mean, I think that's pretty well stated. And in this particular situation, I can't understand why the owners of the property just didn't annex themselves into the city of Fulton. I mean, that would be one question I have right now. Perhaps you can answer that for me.
Well, I think part of the reason is that the negotiations dragged on and on and on, just like so many things do. There was always the hope that it could be an amicable annexation, and it just didn't turn out that way. And, you know, time does pass sometimes without our hardly even realizing it. And it isn't that long since March, actually, until now. And I think that's really what happened.
Well,
there was always a hope it would come about. Okay, Nancy.
Annexation isn't something that the property owners can just petition to do and do. They can petition, and if the two municipalities agree, they can then become annexed. The two municipalities don't agree, the property owner has no control. Then it's a legal battle between the two municipalities. And we're not in a position right now to get in the middle of a legal battle between the town and the city when we're trying to honor our contractual obligations to develop the shopping center. We're not in a position at this time to either say, yes, we will eventually fight to the death to annex, or no, we will not eventually fight to the death to annex. That's why we're asking that we not deal with this issue at this time, that we come in, be allowed to develop our anchor stores as we were told we could develop with sewer and water, as we have relied on, with the restrictions that the sewer and water only serves the 3 proposed anchor stores. I can tell you what the needs are. The Kmart needs are 3,500 to 4,500 gallons. The supermarket is approximately 3,500, and the drive-through restaurant is approximately 2,500, give or take, on all sides. We need to come back. We need to find a solution for additional sewer and water in the future, either through the town, through the city, or through our own means. Right now, we're just asking the city to abide by the agreements they have already made and upon which we have already relied. If it was as easy as just saying we want to be where we want to be and it's done, then, you know, we could choose to be wherever, but that's just not the case.
I think, well, wait a
wait.
minute, Bill, just a second. Only a short comment. I think something that everybody's overlooking is that regardless of what happens here, if anything should happen, that the 11,000 gallons of water and sewer is thrown out for any reason, they still have 4,000 gallons that you cannot take away from them by the '89 resolution. And it wouldn't take that much more by way of water, by way of septic system to take care of their needs. And the water, of course, they can get from the Metropolitan Water Board. I think a lot of people are overlooking that.
Excuse me, Mr. Black?
I don't think he's finished.
Oh, I'm
Shoot.
sorry.
No, I wanted to respond to the attorney. Specifically, she's correct, but what I was implying back in March when I spoke before the Common Council was that we've got to face up to the legal challenges. Court precedence has been set so that cities do win in these legal battles. I've read the cases, and I was asking at that time, and maybe I used a strong word, backbone at that time, but the cities must stand up for their rights. They must stand up for their taxpayers. They must stand up for their community, and we must do it. And we've got to do it not just here in the city of Fulton, but the city of Oswego and throughout all of New York State. We're talking reform.
Bill, you're forgetting something. The city cannot initiate the petition for annexation.
No, that was right. But should the property owner do it, we can therefore litigate it.
Okay. Yes.
Should the contractors do it? That was my point.
All right.
Yes, my name is Ellen Conway, and I work for the Sullivan Law Firm, and we're representing the Fulton Association of Concerned Taxpayers. And I just have one question.
Wait a minute. Are you going to address the factual issues in this case as an attorney?
I have a question that doesn't seem clear to me after what's transgressed this evening.
All right.
It's my understanding that originally the request was for 4,000 gallons of sewer and water a day. I'd just like to know why the sudden need for the extra 7,000 gallons per day.
I don't think it's proper for you as an attorney involved in a lawsuit.
I really don't mind answering the question.
All right.
On behalf of the property owner. As I said before, the development of the shopping center is an ongoing process with negotiation with the tenants. And certainly you can negotiate, we could build smaller stores and use less sewer and water, but this is what our tenants have told us they would like to have. They would like to put very nice, top-of-the-line stores in this area. The city has told us that they have plenty of sewer and water capacity, and they have told us we will have to pay outside user rates if we are not residents of the city. And we have agreed to do that, and we have told our tenants, yes, we will go back and request more, which we did, which we got, and then we have now told our tenants, yes, you may have the additional sewer and water capacity, so we've relied on it, and they've relied on it. We're not asking you to consider the decision tonight. We're just asking you to comply with the representations you've made to us in the past and honor the resolution and the contract. Thank you.
Well, one answer, too, to that question is that the original 4,000 was not, as explained by Mr. Raleigh, for the purpose of the Kmart Plaza. It was for Ames and a couple other stores, which was a different situation entirely. Ma'am, do you wish to speak?
I'd like to put a little twist on it and address the councilman.
Do you have your name, please?
Yeah, I'm Jan Bruni, live on Kennedy Street. When this annexation was a question with Volney, and we negotiated, obviously they weren't budging. I understand that. I remember talking with Mr. Belfiore about it, and at the time you absolutely believed that annexation was the way to go. And I don't know what kind of information has come forward since that changed your mind. And I think that's part of why a lot of people are here. What happened? If things were reversed, Volney didn't back down. No. You know? So, and also I think as much as you want to try, I'm only going to speak for myself here, but as much as you want to try to say that maybe I'm upset with Widewater or Kmart or Mr. Clark or anybody else, it's not true. I'm upset with the 5 people sitting here that's supposed to be representing the taxpayers in this community. And another thing, just a little comment before I ask you one question, but I think that, I don't know about everybody else, but I think that it gets a little tiring for those people who have a question, who don't happen to agree with you. They're not always negative. I'm sorry. They're not always pessimistic. I'd say the people that are here are pretty optimistic about what Fulton could be. They wouldn't be here. They're not against the growth of the city. What they want is fair. Fair. Bottom line. So I guess my only question to you is, if things were reversed, why didn't Balmy members kowtow?
Okay,
And where does that leave us?
First of all, Valmy does not have a downtown area it's trying to revive. Okay, and that's what we're trying
I
to
agree.
do.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more.
Percy, would you mind, if you want to listen to what I have to say, I'll be glad to talk. If not, I have nothing to say. But I do have a few things that I'd like to say. Okay, first of all, Valmy does not have a downtown area to revive. None of us voted to bring that in because we wanted to see downtown die. A lot of people that are in here, most of you, I've seen up at the mall shopping. It's not like I see you downtown in the city of Fulton shopping because it doesn't have everything that we want there. By putting the mall there is not going to get people to come back downtown. That won't happen. From the people that I've talked to, they're excited. They're elated that we decided to give the water for the mall. They don't know why it took us so long to do that. From the people that I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people. I think that maybe our downtown merchants can capitalize on the mall being there. When the mall does go in, why not erect some really good advertising and say 3 quarters down the road is Bergen's Fine Men's Shop or Goldberg's Furniture? They're not those type of stores there. A lot of people still do not know what's in the city of Fulton. Another thing, you're saying we're going to lose tax dollars. Maybe we need to look at other ways that we can raise money other than tax. Excuse me? Excuse me?
Percy.
No, I did not.
Wait a minute. If you can't stop
No, I did not.
interrupting every time you feel like it, would you mind sitting down or leaving?
As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, we need to look at other avenues to raise money. Why don't we look at the way our properties are assessed in the city of Fulton? We have a lot of people paying no tax, and we have a lot of places in the city, for example, over in the 3rd Ward, that are paying the same amount of taxes as people in my ward are paying. I cannot sell my house for $145,000, but they can sell theirs for that, and I'm paying more tax than some of those people there. We can raise money that way. People on Batavia Avenue are paying more than people are paying in the 6th Ward. There's an imbalance. Another thing, the city here let a Superfund site on a major highway stay there for 10 years because they didn't want people to know we had a problem here. That's prime commercial property that could have been cleaned up and sold to make money for the city. And nobody wanted to do anything about it. And when I brought it up and said that Superfund needed to be cleaned up, they said, we don't want anybody to know the city of Fulton has problems. Are we doing the same thing with the downtown area? We don't want people to know that we have problems, so we're just going to forget about it and not allow growth on the outskirts. Another thing is all the property that we have in the city that I've been trying to take care of, as far as revitalizing, or if the property is beyond 50% repairable, take it down that nobody wants to attack, and then resell that property and put more property on the tax rolls. These are some of the ways we could raise money and raise revenue and not keep relying on the sales tax.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to disagree with anything you've said. I mean, I really don't have any backup information on that, but I will say, have anything to do with this issue. Again, you're changing it to something else.
That's your point of view, and I also have a point of view.
Well, I can tell you something.
When you make this, I'm addressing the councilman. When you make, because I don't want to be sued and I don't want my golf clubs taken
Okay,
away.
and another thing, let me tell you about business, what I did this week. Okay, we say that our merchants are hurting downtown. Let me tell you about a personal experience that I had. I went into one of our stores this week and was going to make several purchases downtown. I put all my items on the counter, and then I proceeded to pay for my purchases. I had a $20 Canadian bill, and I was refused.
They told me I couldn't buy it because they didn't know what to do with Canadian money. Is that encouraging growth in our area and wanting people to shop? We have a canal here. It meant something to me, even though it didn't mean something to you, Mr. Patrick, but it told me something. They didn't know what to do with Canadian money. We have a canal here that we have Canadians that could come down here, and they refused to make a sale because they didn't know what to do with the Canadian money. I also called over 9 merchants in the city here, and only one said they would accept Canadian money. And you tell me that they want to change their way of doing business. I called Kmart, and they said they would take it with no question.
That was going to be my question.
They take it with no question. But that they know how to do business.
Okay.
No, they would not. Why should they? There is an exchange rate. But is that a good way to do business?
Just to clear this up, the only thing I want to say is...
I don't care whether you agree with me or not. What I've done is I've set out some of the things that I said. That's what you asked me for. And I gave you some facts of some of the findings that I had.
I just simply want to say that the reason I'm here is not so much to see a sign that says that Bergen's is 3 miles down the road, half a mile down the road, and the tax is 3% higher. That's not what I'm here for. The reason I'm here is I just think that you people should re-look at the whole situation. These business people are not the only ones that are in this, so no matter how you push it into different directions, it really and truly is why you people didn't represent this community in the annexation issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that there's another factor that a lot of people have overlooked, I think. There are a lot of empty stores in this city, and that happened long before this plaza even was dreamed of. KBC, and now apparently Jamesway, and other stores that are vacant. And why? Because of the competition from the malls, Northern particularly. Now you've got Walmart in Oswego, Ames, and other competition. That's where the people are going. That's why these stores didn't do well and they were folding. And if something doesn't happen to keep people here, there are going to be more of them that are going to follow. Keeping Kmart out of here is not going to be the answer. Ken?
George, I don't think our position has been that we want to keep Kmart out of here altogether. We want it in the city so that if Jamesway...
Jim, I understand that. You've said it about 9 times. I don't have any problem with that. Ken?
Apparently you don't understand what I've been saying.
I understand it perfectly.
We don't want to see our tax dollars go out of the city. If somebody else is going to get it, we'd rather it be somebody in the city.
The problem with this thing is would have, could have, should have, and that isn't what we're facing right now. Ken?
George, I can talk tonight because I didn't talk before. You won't let my brother talk, but as you know, we're probably the 7th largest taxpayers in the city of Fulton. And also, on top of that, I think what really troubles me is why a few months ago, you as mayor and some of the aldermen here, in fact, I just heard a lot of baloney. They sell it in the stores here a minute ago.
You can do better than that, Ken.
Yeah, I know, but that really bothers me when, you know, you should be speaking for the city of Fulton here. Nothing else. That's what you represent. That's what you were put in office for. Not talking about Volney, not talking about Oswego where Walmart is, or not talking about the town of Volney. This is the city of Fulton. We should be interested in the merchants that are left here and try to help them in every way that we can to keep the city of Fulton downtown section here. But we're not. All we're listening to here is how we can give something away. You know, we are giving it away. A few months ago, some of the aldermen, without names, and the mayor wouldn't give this away for nothing. I want to know why the change. What changed your mind? What changed your mind to give this away all of a sudden?
If you were listening to the baloney, you would have known. I just told you all what changed.
I know. I heard all the baloney from you. I don't want to hear any more. I'm talking.
Well, I would reiterate what he said.
What's that?
Oh, I thought you were listening.
No, I wasn't listening to him.
Well, I think this is something that will make Fulton, help Fulton go ahead. I think it will keep people in this area instead of going to the adjoining communities and the malls, and that's the reason why you've got empty stores in this city.
You're always going to have people going to the mall. But why don't we look at the downtown in Fulton and our merchants and listen to them? You have the Chamber of Commerce, you have most of your merchants here. The merchants are behind us. But there's one thing you're still forgetting. If we do lose almost $500,000 or $500,000 in sales tax, the money has to come from somewhere. And you know it's going to come from the property tax people in this city. And that's where the tax revenue is going to come. He says, well, we don't need sales tax. Well, we do need sales tax to keep the property taxes down. Everything goes up every year.
Betting man, Ken?
Pardon?
Are you a betting man?
Am I a betting man?
Yeah.
No. No.
Well, you can be both.
But I still...
I was going to offer you a substantial wager that if this Kmart does come in, and they are going to, that our sales tax loss is not $500,000.
I don't know. They took a study of that, and they...
Who took the study?
For quite a while. It came through the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh.
And it was by one of the... I can't remember the man's name that did it, but they claimed that it would be a $500,000.
One of the local merchants, probably.
But I want to go back to the point of the city. I don't want to get onto this. Why can't you aldermen, you as mayor, start thinking about the city of Fulton and the merchants instead of worrying about the town right now? Because, and I'd like to know why we're giving it away instead of receiving some. What is the town going to receive? Sure, there's a store down the road. Northern is up the road too from us. But we don't. What do we care about that? All we're interested in is this city right here, the tax base, and the future of the city. And Kmart being around the corner is not going to be the future. If it belonged, if we could get Kmart to move in where KBC was, we'd have it. There wouldn't be any problem here. But we haven't done that, have we?
Well, Kmart isn't, or KBC isn't big enough.
But
I mean, Kmart store alone is bigger than KBC.
I understand that, but KBC, who I think, if it's been brought out, owes the city about $80,000 in taxes, has a buyer for this building, and if this goes through, the city's going to...
Well, Ken, let me ask you this.
The buyer will not participate. The developer will not participate.
Ken, let me ask you this, okay? Let's assume Kmart never came on the horizon at all right? You already know that we have empty stores in places in the city. What is your solution? How would you stop more businesses from going down, from going under? There already is a rumor about Wayne's. There's a rumor about 5 and 10. I know that 5 and 10s are downsizing. I read that in the Wall Street Journal. How would you stop the erosion of business that's been going on for years? And what do you propose to take its place and bring business back here?
You know, you have 6 aldermen in the city, and as mayor,
answer my question.
As the Chamber of Commerce, who have been working on these things. I think she can answer that question.
You know, one of the things that would be really helpful would be if you were factually correct in when you talked about the state of the businesses that are in the city. Council meeting after council meeting, you tick off a list of businesses that somehow you have heard are about to go out of business or are not going to renew their lease. That's factually incorrect, and you need to check those facts before you're announcing.
Let me give you some facts. KBC, the former Body Connection, not to mention the stores downtown that used to be there that now are professional men. There used to be 2 women's dress shops, just to mention a few. Those are facts. Those are empty.
Those are
and now
facts,
James Way is in bankruptcy. And now James Way is in bankruptcy.
Business are not facts, and you shouldn't state them as if they're facts.
I said it was a rumor. I didn't state it as a fact.
You're mayor of the city. You know, you are mayor of the city. Your responsibility is to represent this city correctly.
And I don't need you to tell me what my responsibilities are. Do you mind?